Hi all. So let's start this live stream on UNO Platform again. This time I have 3 things to do, and I have written down here what I'm planning. So first I will start with MvvmCross, which is a beautiful MVVM framework, open source of course. And it's available for many platforms: iOS, Android, Windows of course, WPF, and it's also working in Xamarin Forms, and in UNO Platform will be soon merged the first party support. So if we look here in the repo, there is an active pull request for bringing UNO support, which was created by Nick Randolph, who actually wrote a nice blog post on this. So I'll have it here. Collections. No, I don't. Oh, man. Yeah. So this is the blog post that describes how to use UNO Platform with MvvmCross, and there is actually a live alpha version of this, which we can try. So let's do it, and let's try to run MvvmCross in UNO Platform. I will start easily by creating a new UNO Platform solution here, and let's call it, I'll put it here in dev, and let's call it hello UNO MvvmCross. And the integration is pretty straightforward. It's very similar to what you have to do when you're setting up a cross-platform solution with classic Xamarin native platforms or with Xamarin Forms. But there are some special steps needed currently for WebAssembly, so I will touch on that as well. So first of all, to get the MvvmCross bits, we will download the NuGet packages, which are actually not public yet, but Nick has published these 2 NuGet packages on his website. You can download them and put them on your local in a local folder in your PC. So I've done that. I have it here in local NuGet, these 2. So now I can reference them by adding a package source. I've done that already as well. So I've added a local path for a NuGet source, and when I select it here, I have both MvvmCross UNO and plugins packages available. So I will just install this one. We don't need the plugins now, and I will install it in all the platform projects, so WebAssembly, Android, iOS, and UWP. And actually, for MvvmCross, we need a additional project, or we don't need it, but it's helpful and nice to make the separation. A .NET Standard project that contains the view models and the business logic of the application. So let's call it hello UNO MvvmCross .core. And this project will contain the shared application class for MvvmCross and will contain the view models. So let's first install MvvmCross here as well, of course. And now that we have it, we can create the base class for MvvmCross. So let's do app.cs, and this application class has to derive from MVX application. It should be here, and it is this one. This is the platform agnostic MvvmCross view models namespace. And this class can be very simple. It can contain just one single override for initialize, and here we register a upstart, which is we register which view model should be displayed when the application is started. So this is the main view model of your application. I will do something like a home view model, and it actually doesn't exist, so we have to create it. So per convention, we will create it in a view models home view model. Yes, and this view model has to derive from MVX view model class. Just a second here. So this class will host the view model. I will do something simple and add a simple property, which will be a text property, and I will make it, of course, notify PropertyChanged. So let's do this. So we added the backing field, and now we set the value and raise PropertyChanged for this. So this way we have the notification back to the view when binding changes. Now this should be enough for the core project, and now we can focus on the shared part in UNO platform. So here we have the app XAML class, and this has to change a bit as we have to derive it from the Windows MVX Windows for MvvmCross Windows application class. So we'll create a partial let's call it hello MVVM app, and let's derive it from it's a class, of course, and let's derive it from MVX application. Have to include the namespace. It's this platform's UAP, as we are using the UWP naming convention, and we are acting like we are in UWP. So good. So let's use the generic version of this class, and this has to include first the setup class, which can be the default, which is provided with MvvmCross, MVX setup, and the generic class takes a MvvmCross application as the parameter. So we will do core app, and this core app thing is from the .NET Standard project, and we will have to reference it. So I will have to add a reference to each of the platform projects here. So here, and here, and lastly in iOS. Okay, so now the reference is working, and we have to add the second generic argument, which is the application class again. So core app. Okay, that's the base application class for UWP, in this case for UNO, and we now have to use it. Oh, there is no so MVX, this is wrong. This is the generic setup class, but we need a MVX Windows setup. Yeah, this is the right one. So we now have to use this application as the base class for our UWP UNO application. So like this, we will make it the base class, and we have to change the base class again here in XAML. So like this. And one particular thing that I have to notice, that XAML editor currently puts these CLR namespace things everywhere, so you have to do manually using so that the autocomplete is working. This is all, of course, caused by the fact that I'm targeting WebAssembly first, but when I choose UWP, it should be all okay. So if I choose this as a startup, and I will unload first and reload, now we should get we should get soon the autocomplete once I get the startup project right. So yeah, now we can select UWP and we get the designer, and the autocomplete should now be using instead of CLR namespace. So what's left here is we can remove this onLaunched method, as this is handled by MvvmCross, and we can also remove the on navigation failed and on suspending methods, as those are also handled by MvvmCross, and we leave this configure filters, which is for UNO platform logging. Yeah, that should be enough for the app class. And finally, we have to add a view for our view model. So per convention, we put it in the views folder, and we create a new item, which is a blank page, and we call it home view to match the view model name. So once it's created, we have the blank page, and we put we make it a stack panel, for example, some padding, and we name it. We put in a text box with text binding to text, mode 2-way, and update source trigger. We put PropertyChanged. I'm using binding here as the MvvmCross preview for UNO platform is currently a very preview state, and currently xbind doesn't work as well as expected. So I'm using a binding for now, but going to the release time point, it should be working properly. So simply like this, I will have a text box which will update, and a text block which will display the content of the text property. And I will do end spacing here so it's a bit nicer. Okay, so let's try to launch this on UWP. We'll see what we missed. Okay, we missed something, and it's home view model is not found. Okay, we have to import the namespace for view models, but that should be enough. Okay, UWP is launching, and we have our application running. Okay, so waiting for debugger. Doesn't want to launch. Why is that? That's pretty interesting. So we have to check if we get here to the view model part. Yes, we do, and the view doesn't show up, which is kind of weird. Let's see. We have home view model here. We can check if it actually gets constructed, but it should. And what should be the problem here? So yeah, this gets constructed, but I don't have any debug information here that the view couldn't be constructed. So it's weird that it doesn't launch. Oh well. I'm reading the chat window now, but I cannot reply because I'm not logged in the window. So what can be the problem? Any ideas, suggestions? It should be fine. Okay, let's try something simple. UX application is okay. So I will try to launch it in Android now, just as a sanity check. Okay, I can go through instructions again if I forgot something. MVX Windows page. Oh, of course, now I get it. So the problem is actually that the MvvmCross cannot find the page, and the reason for that is that the home page, home view, is currently a simple page, but MvvmCross requires us to derive from MVX Windows page. That's the problem there. So once we do that and we check the same thing happens here, we should be able to run it now. So let's do one UWP again. Okay, UWP, and no, don't build Droid. We don't want that. You want UWPs first and launch it. Okay. Now I'm confident that this should work. Okay. Yeah, we are there. And hello, MvvmCross. No. So this is working perfectly now. So this is for UWP. This is the classic part, and now let's dive into the specific platforms like Android. Android should work just fine without requiring any special changes. I will prepare my Mac here for iOS. Okay, let's go to emulator. And we have the application here, and it works. Again, updating on PropertyChanged, and the output is the same, just in light mode as Android's default mode is light. That was pretty fine. Now iOS, I will choose the emulator. Let's do iPad Pro. Oh, I have to connect. I'm connected. That's good. Let's see. The most difficult part will be the WebAssembly solution, WebAssembly project, as that requires some additional changes, and I will walk through those. Okay, simulator starting. All right. Should be again in light theme, and let's do hello. Pretty loud, but it's working. So that's it. So that's MvvmCross in Uno platform running on Android and iOS. And finally, we need WebAssembly to get working. But this requires several things. First of all, we need to update the linker configuration, as if we don't do that, the linker will automatically remove necessary parts for MvvmCross and for our core application. So let's do MvvmCross Uno assembly here, and let's add okay, I will copy it, and this whole thing. Core. So this should be enough to satisfy the linker. And then we have to do one additional change, as MvvmCross currently uses multi-threaded initialization on start. But that's a big problem with WebAssembly, as I can show you here in MvvmCross. Let's do search for initialize secondary. So here in the MVX setup, there is a multi-threaded initialization. So once the primary things are initialized, then the remaining are initialized on a separate thread. But WebAssembly currently doesn't support threads, or the support is just only experimental. So once this happens, we get into a deadlock situation, and the application just doesn't do anything and stops and consumes a lot of CPU. So we don't want that. So instead of causing this problem, let's prevent it in here. So there is a special flag to prevent this from happening. I have it here somewhere. Here. So what this does is, first, I'll change to WebAssembly. First, it instructs the core dispatcher of UNO platform that there is always access to the UI thread, as there is only one thread. And secondly, it tells the MVX setup to use only a single thread for initialization. This way, it will not deadlock, and it should work as we expect it to. So let's choose WebAssembly and build, and hope it works. Sometimes I have encountered issues with the linker, which caused the packager not to work correctly, and it threw an exception. So there is a bug for that, and there is also a workaround which can be found on the UNO WebAssembly hosting GitHub repo. But in this case it worked, so let's see if we will be successful in launching the application. Okay, let's see if something happens here. It's loading. And hopefully we will get somewhere. Yeah, just the debugger. And we are in. So let's put in hello. Oh, it doesn't update the content. Why is that happening? It's a great question. So I will try rebuilding just to make sure it picks up on the XAML changes. But I will then also make sure to update to the latest version of UNO platform. Maybe there is a bug in here in this specific version. Okay. Let's see. Are we in? No, it's the debugger. And now we are in. So once again, it doesn't update, but that should be a problem of the specific version. So let's try updating. I do recall that this worked. So if it doesn't, then there's probably something with the alpha version of the MvvmCross package. We'll see. I need the normal nugget. And well, I will update UNO UI, remote control, and I will just keep this stable. Okay. I see no problem here, so it should work. Let's rebuild. And hope for the best. In the meantime, if you have any questions or asks for me, then definitely write it in the chat and I will try to answer or help. Right, let's launch this and let's see what happens once again. And we don't have anything happening here. Oh, that's sad. Maybe we should have the bindable attribute here. Let's try that. Maybe it couldn't work. So let's add bindable. Not sure if this one or that. Oh, that one. So it's this one. My binding is. Oh, not this one, but this guy should be just binding text into a on property changed. I don't want that happening. Okay. That's a riddle. We saw it working in UWP, iOS and Android, but it doesn't work in WebAssembly. So let's try the link trick, if that will help. Just stop the linker from doing what it does. Let's see if it has any difference at all. Good idea. I will try that. So let's just first launch it like this. And I will then add the text block. No. Okay. Still loading. So I can add a text box to bind to the data context itself. That's a good idea. That could possibly reveal the problem. Maybe the data context is just not getting set. Yeah, let's try it. Just confirm if it just a sanity check. So let's do text block binding itself, and that should display the class name. And if it doesn't, it means the data binding doesn't work. Okay. I have another idea what I can show you in the meantime, or not in the meantime, but after this, just to make it more interesting. We have currently this complex boilerplate code for single property, which is annoying, and there is one nice NuGet package, Fody, which will get rid of this. So we can see that the data binding is not getting set here at all. So I think the problem is probably somewhere in the preview versions of packages. So let's leave it like this. I had it working previously, so I'm not sure what the problem is. But what I can try here is just to show you one additional thing. That's a nice thing to have when you have MvvmCross. Well, the data context wasn't there at all, so I put there the not here, but I put there the text box with binding on data context itself, and it didn't display anything. So it seems like it's not getting set. The data context it's set automatically by MvvmCross in the MVX Windows page. It's on view appeared, I think, or on navigated to, it does set the view model there. So I can then check if it's actually happening, but it should be happening as it's worked in UWP and other platforms. So in this case, it should be fine. I got it somehow broken here. No matter. So let's just show you the Fody package. As Fody PropertyChanged is a nice NuGet package that does let you remove most of the boilerplate code from your code, and in this case, instead of these things, we can just say prop. This is completely broken somehow, so I will just close Visual Studio now and reopen it. Now it doesn't even launch. Okay. Finally. So let's see. Now it looks better. We have this green arrow there. So in this package we installed Fody, and with Fody we can do a nice thing, which is to remove all the boilerplate and just put there string text. And this is automatically picked up by the Fody during compilation and is replaced by the full PropertyChanged machinery. And I can prove it to you if I build it. I can use ILSpy and just open the DLL there. So let's see, DL debug, not in standard, and I will open it here, and I will try to disable the linker. Yeah, good idea again. Yeah, here we have the view models and home view model, and as you can see, during compilation, it got replaced by this complete thing. So it checks if the text has changed, and in that case it raises PropertyChanged, and it does it all for us. We don't have to do anything, which is pretty nice indeed. Okay, so let's just show that it works. It works in UWP, and then we will give WebAssembly another try. I have disabled linker here actually during the last attempt, so it seems like it doesn't work at anyway. So you can see that the data binding's working, and we have just a simple property here. So all the boilerplate is gone. I can try one more thing just to make sure we tried everything, and that is that on navigated to, I will make sure that the data context is set to view model, just to make sure that it happens in the end. And I can even do something like debug right line, and not like this, but I can in WebAssembly, should give me the right IntelliSense, yeah, system diagnostics, and right line the view model itself, just to see if this is set in the moment when we navigate to the page. If it's not, it's a problem of the current MvvmCross alpha for UNO platform. So let's try it again, launch it, and we should see if anything we did helped. Let's see the console, and in the console we should see the debug right line output. It's a nice quick debugging trick for WebAssembly. It doesn't seem that we have any output here, and no. Oh, I see the problem now. Okay. So the problem the whole time was not that it didn't work. The problem is we are using, we have a white background of the page. The code is actually using dark theme in WebAssembly, and we are setting the background here, which is wrong, because in UNO platform currently we have to set the background in the root element, not on the page, which is the default in UWP. So we finally found the culprit, and once we do this, we should get black background and see the output. So hopefully, I was curious why the text box was dark. It looked like it was disabled, but it was not dark. It was the right color for dark theme. So let's hope it now gives us the right results. I have dark theme set on Windows, so that's why dark theme is set in the browser as well. Oh, finally, of course. So hello, MvvmCross. Good. That's very good ending to this MvvmCross attempt. So the trick is to make sure to always set the background on the root element in your XAML page, not on the page itself. This is actually a known bug which is tracked on UNO platform GitHub, so you can find it there. It should be fixed sometime in the future. Background, let's see, background. Page background cannot be changed, that's it. Yeah, this one actually occurred the same problem, and there are multiple issues that are related, but the problem is in general that control background doesn't work currently, and once that's fixed, we should get the same experience as on Windows, and we can leave the background property on the page itself. All right, so that's for MvvmCross and Fody, and I will transition to something completely different, which is let's do which is hot restart, because currently Xamarin Forms team is a lot talking about Xamarin hot restart, which is a great feature which even allows you to run your Xamarin iOS applications on your iPhone without having a Mac or having a Mac connected, and you can run it directly from Windows. And the cool thing that many people don't know is that UNO platform supports this as well, and there is a neat little trick that allows you to actually get it running on UNO platform. So I will try that, and to do that I will create a new project, of course. So let's do a new project, and let's create a new UNO platform solution, and let's call it hot restart test. Okay. And hot restart requires us to first install iTunes, which is a horrendous software, but I have installed it. And it consumes a lot of RAM, but whatever. One key thing to note is hot restart doesn't work with the store version of iTunes. And currently you have to manually download the iTunes installer and install the full thing, which is again a bit annoying, but what can you do? All right, so the hot restart functionality currently works only with iOS. Android is coming in the future, and when it does, I am sure that UNO platform team will immediately port it to UNO platform as well. One little problem with hot restart is that it currently requires you to use Xamarin Forms, and it doesn't work with native iOS applications. But the trick we can use is actually to use the application delegate from Xamarin Forms and use UNO platform as our UI framework. And that's described in Jerome's blog post here. I'm saying hi into the chat. So here in this blog post, we can see that we can change the application class in iOS to match Xamarin Forms, to have it run in debug mode and use hot restart. But when we are done, we are using the default release version, which is without Xamarin Forms. So first we will do an installation here, and we will install Xamarin Forms. So now we will have two UI frameworks in one project, but one is used only for the hot restart functionality. The Xamarin team said that the Xamarin Forms requirement is only temporary, and in the future it will not be required. So hoping is that this will be soon a thing of the past, but in the meantime we will have to use it like this. So I will copy this delegate and just resolve the missing references, and with this hot restart delegate we should be now able to run it on our local iOS device. Okay, I will plug it in, and to make it run we have to first enable hot restart in options, because this is an experimental feature. It's somewhere here in preview features, enable Xamarin hot restart. You have to enable it manually first and then restart Visual Studio. I've done that already, so this is fine. And now I should be able to choose my iPhone from the list of devices. I'm connected here to the Windows PC, so there is no Mac. I can even disconnect the Mac just to prove it doesn't care about it being present, and I will launch it. Boguslav is asking if I tried to migrate an existing UWP project to UNO. I'm currently in the process of porting Alchemy, which is my little UWP game on the store, and I'm trying to port it to UNO platform, and so far it's very promising. The thing is that it uses MvvmCross, so I'm waiting for the official support there, but I maybe could show you, if I will be lucky, how it's in current state, in very preview state in UNO platform. I will open it for now and just wait for the iPhone to... Okay, it's not configured to be deployed. This is a very useful error message. It says that we have to set iOS project to be deployed. By default it's not, as previously deployment of iOS applications wasn't a thing on Windows, but once I select here deploy, I should be able to launch it. The interesting thing is that when you do this currently, the application is installed on iOS, but you have to launch it manually. So, as the message says, please launch the application, hot restart test. So I will launch it here. It's here, and once it loads, we have hello world here, hello world shown. This is our hello world application, and it runs as we expect it to, and it's very fast to deploy, and you don't have to use your Mac. So that's very beneficial and very nice to have. I should have mentioned one more thing, that to get this running, you have to set up account, not here, but in here, you have to log in into your Apple account to make it actually download the certificates and do the automatic provisioning for the device. But that's just a little bit inconvenience for the benefit of not having to launch your Mac OS device and run the application directly from Windows. Okay, this of course currently works only for iOS applications and doesn't work for Mac OS, which is clear, but you know. Yeah, so let's continue here. I will try to show you the Alchemy in its current version, but I'm not sure if the current state is something that works or it's something that I've broken with many tries of getting it to work. So let's see, let's try it. I'm facing the problem which is currently tracked in the MvvmCross repository as well as in UNO platform, that MvvmCross uses the onNavigated2 event to set the data context for the page, but the order of events is a bit different on UNO platform, and when this happens, then the page loads before the data context is set, so xbind doesn't work, and this should be fixed, but it's just making porting MvvmCross applications at the moment a little bit harder than it could be. Okay. Let's see if it launches. I have just a very simple splash screen, which doesn't even show up now. Okay. Yeah, I've been doing changes in this current code, so maybe it doesn't even launch now. I was trying to fix the problem, but it seems I made it even worse. Oh well. But the point is that, for example, all of my service classes, which I have, including accelerometer and credential store and so on, all these are working as I expect them to, without any changes. I just took what I had. For example, here I'm using Password Vault, and even though it's a Windows thing, it just works on iOS, Android, and I don't have to do anything else. I have created a separate one for WebAssembly, as WebAssembly doesn't have secure storage. So currently this is just a simple no-op class, and I will probably use application data, just the settings there, as I'm actually storing just a token for the user, and that's expected to be there. And yeah, but otherwise many things just work, and I didn't have to do any changes. For example, a URI launcher, again, UWPP class, and it works, and so on. So it's a very nice experience. And so far, I've been successful porting many things, but the UI, which is now waiting to be resolved based on the situation with loaded and onNavigated2 events. But I have another thing that I could show. Is what I did on the weekend. I've ported this Untitled JS library, which is a Japanese transliteration library. And what it does is, you can write your classic English text, and it translates those into Japanese letters. So as you can see, it's translating to hiragana here. If you go hiro, you can see katakana here, and it just does many useful things with Japanese language. And I've made a port of this library to .NET. Not here, probably, but here. And I've put the NuGet here. And the good thing is, it actually does work very nicely with UNO Platform. I tried. Ooh. Okay. That launched itself. I tried to use that library here in my in-progress application for learning Japanese language. I hope it is still functional, or it's an old version probably. I'll launch it differently then. Let's do. It should be this one. And this is also an UNO Platform application, so Android, iOS, WebAssembly, and UWP. And I will first launch the UWP version. What I'm doing there is on the main page, on the dashboard currently, it's just for testing. I've put a text block which allows me to enter text and has the text changing event. And that is using the Vanakana library to translate the text into hiragana or katakana, and then putting the cursor on the end to the end of the field. And if we go to the application here, we can see it does exactly what we expect it to. But the nice thing is, when I open this application in Android, then thanks to the fidelity of UNO Platform, it actually does the same thing, and I didn't have to do any changes. So the text changing event is again called and translates properly, and the cursor is on the right location. Just a second for it to load. And here we go. As the latest version, and I'm not sure if I'm logged in. If not, I will have to log in. Oh, okay. Then the question is if I can log in without writing the token manually, which would be bad, but I cannot paste it there. So I will do it on a separate screen. Okay. Just a second. P0. Long token for writing it manually. Okay, I mean, luckily the first try worked. So I will now type in something, and as you can see, it's translating properly into Japanese, and that's without any changes, and it's working in UNO Platform the same way as on UWP. And to make it the most cool as can be, I can try it in WebAssembly as well. Yeah, MvvM Lite is already supported. There is a UNO platform port for MvvM Lite, and I can do it in this repo. For example, here there is MvvM Lite UNO package. You have to click include pre-release, and it's here. So UNO platform, Galasoft MvvM Lite, and platform. These two packages are already compatible, so you can use those utility classes there. And now let's see what happens in the browser. Oh, once again the token. Okay, just a second here. This allows pasting. Log in, and we are in, and now we should have the same experience here. So hello, and katakana, and everything is working the same way as on UWP. So that's pretty nice, and I dig this functionality. All right, so what's next on the agenda? I wanted to start porting a new Microsoft UI control from WinUI, which is the split button. And Microsoft UI repository has a lot of controls already. While we're waiting for the key ones like text box or the basics like button to be ported here, then we have at least these ones we can work on. And there is a split button control, which is a pretty nice control, which has two parts essentially. Split button UWP. You can see how it works. It's basically a button which has the left side, which is a button, normal button, and the right side, which is basically a drop down or a fly out kind of thing. And this control is currently not implemented in UNO platform, so I wanted to try to tackle this in this live stream, or start doing this in this live stream, and continue in some future one as well. So I will first kill this one. I don't want this. No, I don't want to install iCloud. Definitely not. And I'll kill this. And yeah. Okay, so I will go to the UNO repository here and create a new branch for the split button. Let's do def nazi split button. Check out how to create, and let's dive in. I've already cloned the Microsoft UI repository here in Microsoft UI XAML, and I will open it with code so that I can reference it and copy paste things and just make it easier to use. The split button is here, and I will conventionally start with porting the UI test page, which displays the control and shows how it should actually work in UWP. So let's first change the targeting in UNO platform solution, as we are targeting Windows. So here we select UAP, put it here, and let's launch the Windows only version of the solution. Right, in the solution we have the UI test shared project, which contains the test pages, and we have already a Microsoft UI XAML controls folder, which contains not this. Try it if it works. Remove. Okay, so this folder contains UI tests for Microsoft UI controls, and in the future it will probably contain a lot more controls, as controls will be moved for WinUI free from the Windows UI namespace to Microsoft UI XAML. So let's try adding new one for split button tests, and we will add a new blank page which will match the name of Windows UI. So this is the split button page. Right, split button page. And first we'll just set it up on Windows, make sure it works, and then we will start implementing the control. So first of all, we will copy all this to our page, and then we will have to resolve some missing things. So I will first also copy the page here, which is split up button page. This is the code behind, and I will just take all of it from here to there and put it into the code behind here. Okay, so this is doing there are some missing things. So split button test API is a test API which we will port later. Let's mark it as to do. This control state viewer is not here, is it's actually here, and so we will take it into our project as well as a utility class. So let's do a utility utilities folder here and put the whole thing. Let's put the whole thing here as a custom user control. What's the name? Control state viewer. Okay, replace this, and the code behind the same thing. Just take all of it and put it here. Right. State grid view. It's actually there, so that's no problem. And yeah, those are just fake warnings, but once we compile it, it should work. Let's go back to the Microsoft UI control XAML split button page. So control state viewer is now available. And do we have it? It's on the page probably. Yeah, this is here, but we have to import the namespace properly, which is using utilities. Then we have the split button, and we will use the Microsoft UI XAML controls one. There is also the Windows UI XAML controls, but we will implement the new one just to make sure that we are using the latest stuff and that we are ready for the WinUI free transition. This local my command thing, what is that? My command. Let's see. It seems like it's actually a class in the split button page. Split button page code behind, so it should be there. It should be working fine. Yes, we have it here. The definition is here, and we have to import system Windows input. Okay, this is fine. These are just references to controls in the XAML, which is not built yet, so it's giving us these fake errors. And we have this SplitButton test API, which we said we have as a to-do later. Okay. All right, so let's try to build this thing, and we'll see if there's something missing or if it's enough. One thing I should probably do is to change. There's usually this section here, which makes sure we are always using the Microsoft UI version of controls. So I will probably, let's try to build it, and I will add it later. This section is in almost any test page of Windows UI to make sure there is no namespace clash with the new ones. Yeah, it did fail. Yes, that's the problem. It's trying to match the delegate, and the delegate is different as it's using the Windows UI version of the event arcs. So let's put it here. Yeah, this is a test API, which we have as a to-do. And let's try it again. There's a lot of test pages, so it's taking a long time, but now it's up. This is the samples app, which is used for UI tests in UNO platform and for, just testing how functionality and APIs work. And there should be our. Oh, I forgot one important thing, and that is to mark the page as a test. Each of the pages has to have this sample control info attribute, and I will just copy it here and change it to SplitButton. The first one is the category for the test, and the second one is the test name itself, or the page name itself. SplitButton reveal style. Okay, this will probably crash as the SplitButton reveal style does not exist. It's probably a new thing in Microsoft UI controls, and we will have to remove it because currently UNO platform does not have support for reveal styles yet, and we have to add it later when it does. Yeah, SplitButton reveal style is missing. Yeah, it's not even in the version of Microsoft UI XAML package which I have installed here. So it's a new thing. Reveal SplitButton. Yeah, it's using this reveal style, so I will just completely hide this one. Okay, it's gone. So now let's launch it again. I will have to put in a to-do for that, but let's now just try how it works. The designer is now showing the controls, which is good. It's a good sign that we made progress. Okay. Samples launching. And here we go. So split button and MUX test. Oh, here we go. Here we go. So the flyout, clicking, text alignment, many things. Here are all the visual states of the split button. And here we have a toggle for flyout, and here is a command for and can execute, so to disable the button when the command is not enabled. Okay, so this is the control. There is also the toggle version of the split button. The split button is not only one control, it has also a toggle version, which is the same thing, it just does the toggling functionality. So now it's checked, now it's not checked. Otherwise, it's the same control. All right, so with the text page now working in UWP, we can go into UNO platform and try to implement it there. I will first put in the to-do. Like this, and I will commit the changes. I always check here in this project items class if the paths to the files is correctly generated, as Visual Studio tends to put in a weird path, but in this case it worked, hopefully. Yes, it seems okay. Sometimes it just puts in a absolute path to the file, which is definitely not correct. So let's stage this, let's put in test, edit split button, test page, MUX. Okay, so that's the first commit for the branch. And we will now switch to probably to Android, as that's the most friendly platform to develop on. And choose this Android version of the solution. Now let's look at the layout of how controls are implemented in WinUI. So each of the controls has its own folder. There are API tests, interaction tests, and strings, which are localization strings. I will copy those directly to UNO platform. And there are some XAML files, which are classic XAML styles for the controls, as well as theme resources for colors and brushes and so on. And finally, we have some C++ code that makes it all work. And split button has a split button H class, H header file, and the CPP file, and this IDL, which describes the real interface, the public interface of the control. And then there is automation peer, some event arcs, the API, test API, and its factory, and then some test helper, and then we have this toggle split button, the toggle split version, the toggle version of the button, which should be very simple, just to enable toggling. And I don't seem to find the XAML file for toggle split button. Let's see if it's here actually. It seems that the style for toggle split button is the same as for split button, so should be okay. It should be pretty simple. So it means the style for split button contains already the states for toggling. So it's a weird separation, but okay. It's okay for us. And another thing that is important for these controls, that there is also a generated folder which contains the properties of the controls, the dependency properties, which are generated automatically. And most of the controls have something here, so split button should have as well. Yeah, and here we have some dependency properties like flyout, command property, command parameter, and so on. So those things we have to keep in mind as well when we port this. Okay, so let's dive into UNO platform implementation. And the process is basically simple. We have to take the C++ code and turn it into C# code, and just, yeah, that's it. That's basically it. It's very simple, and it doesn't, it cannot be unfortunately automated, as C++ is quite tricky language and has many different weird asterisks and ampersands and weird characters overall in the source code. So we will just make it simpler by turning it into C#. And the right place to put it is in this Microsoft UI Ensemble controls folder. And we have I've already started an implementation before, but left it undone. Now we're returning to it, so that's why I have the clash. Now for split button, we create the base class, which is the split button itself, button CS, and we have to make sure to match the interface, the namespace correctly. So Microsoft UI XAML controls, and not split button, but just controls. Also, we have to take the, as I previously said, we have to take the resources there, which are here somewhere, split button, the strings, all these resv files, we just paste them as they are with no changes at all. Yeah, so all these, we just keep them as they are. These contain probably some translations, automation name for the secondary button. Okay. That's just a description for the screen readers for accessibility. So split button class is a public, has to be partial, so that it works with UNO platform's code generation. And we have to check split button UWP. We have to use the Microsoft UI controls. It derives from content control, so we do the same thing here, and use the right namespace. And for the split button, we now get to port the methods themselves. I will also create some additional files to make it ready. So split button dot properties for the dependency properties, to have it separate and to match the naming convention of WinUI. Then we have split button automation peer, button automation peer, and this is again the current namespace. and I have to use this right namespace here as well. And this will be a partial class also without this partial, and this will be an automation peer, so I think it will derive from automation peer this way. Let's confirm that, and probably the split button automation, no, automation peer, and that's here. And the namespace for this one, yeah, namespace for this one is Microsoft UI Ensemble controls. Okay, that's good. Interesting that some others have a different namespace. For example, the tree view had a different namespace than Microsoft UI Ensemble controls. Let's via automation peer. Review item automation peer. Yeah, this one is actually in Microsoft UI XAML automation.peers. So it's weird that they are in different namespaces, but we have to match what is in Microsoft UI. So let's do it like this. Okay, the automation peer is there. Then we have toggle button. Oops. Toggle button. And this guy derives from split button itself. That makes sense. And we have to choose the right one. It's very useful to use the convention of putting the namespaces on top, as we did in the UI test page. So I will go there and copy it here as well. This exact thing without the to do we can use here, just to make sure we always are in the right place in terms of which controls we are using. I have to remove the wrong namespace like this. And toggle split button is checked. Event arcs we don't have yet, so we will have to create those. Very useful shortcut is square bracket S, which will sync your file with the Solution Explorer. So event arcs. There are two different event arcs. I'll just copy those. Split button event arcs, and those will be two classes. It will be simple to implement this. So split button event arcs. No. Event arcs. Like this, empty class, and the same thing here. To make sure if it actually derives from these. So in the generated class, it doesn't actually. It's a simple class. So we'll do just like this, and like this. So public class. And the namespace is correct, and the what is happening here? The split button does not exist in this namespace. Doesn't it really? Oh, I replaced the contents. Okay, that was not smart. Let's hope the history is long enough. Yeah. Okay. Still more like this. Oh, okay. That's fine. And now what we're missing as well is the toggle split button automation peer. It should be the last class. And again, Microsoft UI XAML controls. Okay, and derived from automation peer. There is only a Windows UI version as it is. Okay. So let's try porting the C++ code here. I will probably take all of this, just put it here, and comment it out so that it does compile. Or just to get rid of the errors. But for the first thing, I will replace some C++ oddities with something nicer in UNO platform. So the auto is equivalent of var, and double colon is 1 dot. These split button prefixes are in general like everywhere, it seems, just to prefix the method name. So I can just get rid of those. I found that very useful to do this find and replace at the beginning when I ported the tree view control, as it just makes working with the code much easier when you don't have to manually repair many things which are just clearly copy-paste kind of things. WinRT prefix is not necessary as well. And here asterisk disk is just this. And yeah, that's better. Now we can also get rid of space L and replace it with just space and double quote. And now the code is looking much better. And let's do the porting itself. So let's start with the constructor, which first sets the style key, and we have a default style. Oh, you don't have the IntelliSense now, so I will just do it like this. Just take all of this and hide it so that it doesn't cause IntelliSense issues. Yeah, now we should get IntelliSense. So default style key, yes we do. So default style key is type of split button, and this is wiring up some events. So key down on split button, key down, and key up on split button, key up. And we'll start with implementing these two. I usually do it like this, that I go through what I need at the moment to make the application, all the code without errors. Okay, like this. Split button, key down. Make everything private first, then I check if those things are actually exposed in the API, so that I don't expose something that's not supposed to be exposed in the final code. So virtual key from Windows System key, and we now check if space, enter, or gamepad A, and if yes, we set isKeyDown field to true. The isKeyDown field should be in the header file. I usually put these there. isKeyDown is defaulting to false. So let's do it. Private bool false. To make it explicit, I will use equals false, even though it's false by default. isKeyDown is true, and we update visual states. And update visual states is a method which lies here. So I will uncomment this one. And it has one argument which is use transitions, but as we can see, it doesn't use it, so there's a default. So we update visual states. The default is true. So let's put there default value for true. I will comment this away for now, and we will return to it. To do. Let's go back to our second SplitButton key up. SplitButton key up, which is here. It should be very similar. Oh, it's more expensive than the key down event. So let's see. Args key. You have to replace key rotate event args with this, and now we check if is enabled. And is enabled seems like a dependency property. So let's see. SplitButton properties. Yeah, it's a clearly dependency property, as it's it's implemented on content control. Yeah, it's enabled. Here we go. And on click primary, which is here. And let's go back. We sent null pointer. Oh, we can replace null pointer with null, just to make it nicer. Fine, and instead of calling a method, it's just assignment on handled. Let's go there. Core virtual key states is here. This is fine. Now is enabled is not a method, it's a property, and open flyout is a method. Yeah, good. You'll probably need close flyout as well. Comment this out. To do. Let's go back. Open flyout handled equals true. Is enabled is a property. Is enabled true. This is all mechanical rewriting of the C++ conventions to C# conventions. It's nothing too complicated, but it has to be done. On click primary, that is another method we uncommented. It has two parameters. Rotate and here. We create new SplitButton click event args, and we invoke this click event on the SplitButton, and click event is actually somewhere here. Yeah, it has this signature, so I will take it and put it right here. Okay, click. And instead of this weird thing, we will do click invoke this with event arcs. Right, and automation peer we already have. So we create it, and we check if peer is not now. And if it's not, we raise the automation event invoke pattern on invoked. That's good. So another method's done. Then we go to our next to do. Update visual states. This is a long method. Lot of visual states. So let's do it. Okay, last pointer device type. That's a field again. And last pointer device type is defined in the header usually. Here it's a mouse, defaults to mouse. Pointer device type and default to mouse. Okay, and we have primary button, secondary button. Again, we check the type. It's a simple button. Simple Windows UI button, which is fine. Now this is not necessary. M is flyout open. Another boolean which defaults to false. Right, and here instead of this we have to check if it's not now, which is the equivalent to what C++ code is doing there. Internal is checked. Oh, what is that? It's a new method. Or isn't it? Interesting. What is this? Internal is checked. It's a virtual thing which is probably for the use of the toggle button. Okay, I'll add it here. Oh, not to the top, I will add it to the end. For now, protected, virtual internal is checked, and by default returns false. And it's actually above the visual states in the header file, so I'll put it there just to match the layout. I can turn this into expression body. So now we checked if primary button is pressed, secondary button is pressed. That's a primitive bool in the as a property on the button class. Is pointer over, is pressed, is pointer over, and is pressed, is pressed. The same thing all over again. It's very simple to rewrite this code. So if you want to port a control from MUX to Uno platform, it's the best time to get started. Update visual states is not a public method. It's gonna be something more private, so I will put it full private here. If you need to make it internal later, you can change that. And let's next do's. Open flyout. It's pretty short as compared to the previous one, so we first check if there is a flyout. If flyout not null, and there is no flyout property. And this is actually a first property, dependency property of the split button. So we'll go to the split button properties, and we can see here the command property, parameter property, and flyout property. And I will probably just implement those now, as they will be useful later. Let's use the useful template prop.tp, which gives us this nice experience. We want first command property, which is an I command, and defaults to null. I command. Oh, I lost the autocomplete. Oh well. Oh, command. It's a command property. We don't want that. Command. We want this. We want like this, and all this will be like this. And split button is the owner. Property metadata contains null as the default value, and we register dependency property with the name. And here we use a newer syntax of name of command. It should be command. Yeah, command. It's correct. And the type again is not int, it's I command. The next one is command property, which will prop.tp object command parameter, and the owner split button, and the default value is null, I think. Command parameter, yeah, that's okay. And then we use name of, just to make it more sustainable. Remove. And the last dependency property is our sacred flyout, and the flyout is flyout base type. Let's do flyout base. It's imported, so prop.tp flyout base. Oh no, not again. Just once you do the tab key, it removes the stops the autocomplete there, so I'll just do it manually, whatever. Flyout base is the type, default is null, and we have the name as flyout property, and the name is everywhere like this. The name of flyout, and the owner is a split button. Okay, so that's for our dependency property. So I'll just reorder this to make it nicer. Okay, good. All right, free dependency properties is the charm. It occurred to me that the toggle split button probably has also some dependency properties, and yeah, that's right. It's a is checked property. So let's do that one again as well, so that we have everything already prepared. Toggle split button properties. And we remove this, and it's a partial class, of course. Partial class toggle split button, and in there we have a dependency property, which is is a bool is checked, and the owner is toggle split button, and by default it's probably false, and we have a property changed event here. Checked, changed. No, this is the header file, so here is checked, and the false is the default, but we have on is checked property changed method, which has to be invoked when the property is changed, and it actually notifies the toggle split button that the property has changed, and we have to change the UI probably, or the visual state. So let's add this as well. Name of, and here we go. Oh, no. Okay, private. Yeah, a lot of boilerplate, not useful. Remove that. What? There is one more. Not in selection, but in current document, of course. And auto is var. We cast this to toggle split button, and then we invoke on property changed method on the split button itself, like that. And yeah, so we have to put it here. So in is checked on. Yeah, it has to be static, not instance method. All right. That should be it for the toggle buttons. Dependency properties. This method is not yet does not yet exist, but we can provision it. Toggle split button on property changed. On property changed is here just a simple method. I will just put there I will just let it generate method for now, and we will return to it later as a to-do. No, I don't want suggestions. Errors. Let's do it manually then. It has to be internal so that we can see it from the... Oh no, actually it's the same class, so we can use private. Private void on property changed, and the argument is dependency property changed event args. Okay. And leave it as to do for later. The split button, let's go back to split button. We have now the flyout property implemented. So it's here, shared helpers. We have some shared helpers already there, and the is flyout options is available, so that's good. Flyout show options is a class in WinUI, in UWP. So we create a new one, new instance, and we set the placement to bottom edge aligned left. Okay. Okay, another method is done. Now close flyout. Very simple one. Just move this here. Flyout not equal now. And we are done. That's nice. We have no remaining to-dos, so we can do another method that is missing, but I have to check one more thing. If I didn't forget a on PropertyChanged event on the SplitButton properties as well. So SplitButton properties here. There is actually on flyout PropertyChanged, on command parameter. Oh, all of them have their own PropertyChanged methods. So let's do it here on command changed. Then on command parameter changed. Now the IntelliSense is working. It's very, very interesting how things suddenly work when you close the error messages. And this is on flyout changed method. So these three should be implemented, and it should be probably the same thing all again as in the toggle split button. So yeah, just cast the sender as split button and invoke PropertyChanged. So let's go split button dependency object. I'll just keep the naming the same as sender and args. So sender and owner dot on property changed args. And we do the same thing on all three, right? Yes. So the same thing it's exactly the same thing, the same code. You may notice that WinUI is using as there, and that's the equivalent to cast. There is also try as, which is equivalent to as in C#. Now let's go back to split button, and there should be also a on PropertyChanged method there. We should have it here as well. Changed. Let's do uncomment. Now like this, and it should be dependency property changed. I can probably remove all these ampersands as well, as they are meaningless. Yeah, and I can see there's also a lot of these on, so I will just leave it as this. Okay, that's simpler now. Let's go back to where we were. Okay, that I didn't want to do. I removed also ampersands in logical expressions. So let's just leave it like it is and do it manually. iDependency property is not iDependency property, it's actually dependency property in UWP, and the property, we check if it's a flyout property. Exactly, and on flyout changed, we invoke this method, which is somewhere here. Let's just uncomment all this. And we will need register flyout event as well. So let's yeah, a lot of methods are already getting implemented, so this should be done pretty quickly. We use split button automation peer here, and it doesn't have the constructor yet, so I will add it, and it should be split button owner doesn't have base, so just like this, leave it as to do for later. And if this is done, on create automation peer, is it a public method or not? It's probably not, but it's inherited. Okay, so we'll override it. And the next thing, there we go. Flyout changed. There we go. Okay, so the flyout is here. We check if it's not null, and we have to actually make sure that we unregister the events from the flyout before we go into flyout changed, and we can do that probably in here. Old value, we have it here. With the old value we can do whatever we want. So if old value is a flyout, old flyout, we have to unregister the events here. So old flyout opened, flyout open, what's the name? On flyout opened. Okay, on flyout opened, and old flyout closed, flyout closed, and finally flyout placement changed. It's interesting. So we are signing up for property changed event on the flyout. Property changed callback, flyout, but not on this. We have to do it on flyout unregister property change callback, and we will have to take a token for this one, which we will get here. So I will create a private field for that. It's a token, which we will revoke in there. So it's gonna be flyout placement property, and it's a placement property, but it's not a placement. Okay, that's weird. Flyout base. Oh, flyout base. Of course, flyout base placement property, and we unregister our property change callback. This flyout opened method doesn't exist yet, so we'll create it. Where is it? Here. Flyout open, flyout closed. All these will have to be implemented anyway. And we go back to here. So we revoked this already in before. So now we sign it up for the new flyout. So flyout opened will be on flyout opened. Flyout closed will be on flyout closed. And finally, flyout register property change callback for flyout base placement property, and the method will be on flyout placement changed. And we have to store the token that we get back so that we can revoke it later. Let's remove this. Okay. On flyout placement changed. What's the problem here? It doesn't match the proper naming. So let's just generate it and see what it does. Where is it? Here. Generate. It's probably the signature was wrong in this place. Yes, I had the ampersands there. That's the problem. Anyways, this is now fixed. And we just update visual state for flyout placement. And yeah, all right, that's progress. Oh, the token is not int, it's a long. So long. Yeah. Okay, that's fixed. And now we go here to flyout opened. Raise automation property changed event. Seems like this is not yet implemented in the shared helpers. And we will need expand collapse state there. So let's find this. Let's find this guy in the WinUI. Shared helpers is here, and we have this static method. We have a custom version here, and we put it on the same place just to make it nice. Erase if exists. Oh, okay. Oh, this is the header class. So, well, I will put it in the at the end of the class. So internal, and it should be UI element. Parameter type is okay, this is a generic method, isn't it? Yeah, it's a generic method. So let's put generic in C# as well. Or properly templated method in C++, but that's a detail. Automation peer, framework element, peer from element. Okay, and we check if it's not null. And then we raise the property changed event. Then we boxing. That's done automatically for us. And we do expand collapse filters. What is that? Does it exist? It's in automation already. So let's do it like that. And expand collapse state property. So that we already done. And let's go back to SplitButton class. Let's go through what's missing. So on visual property changed. That's a method which isn't called anywhere yet. And why is that? Is it private? And it's sender dependency arcs. And we check where it's actually used in the source code. Not here, of course, but in the SplitButton class. Right. It's used in isPressed and isOver property. That's registered in onApply template, which we haven't done yet. So let's do the remaining stuff here, just to clean up. On click secondary, on click on pointer event, we uncomment these. These are pretty simple. Just checking pointer device type. And we implement it like this. And there is a split button test helper. Okay, that's interesting. There is a test code right inside the implementation of the control itself, which is pretty unusual, I must say. But okay, we can just add the split button test helper as well. And that should be here. It's a simple class. It just contains, it just creates, it just sets a value there. It just sets a Boolean field. And it acts as like a singleton, as it creates a single instance and sure instance with thread local. So it's just like the way to create a singleton classes in C++. I will just probably copy the CPP code here to there. And comment it out. And let's create the class itself. So let's do static split button test helper instance, which will be a self-initializing property which we initialize at the start. And thanks to how static works in C#, it should be just a single instance, and it should be safe in multi-threaded situations. So even though we don't have any locking there, this is handled for us by C#'s infrastructure. And we don't have the ensure instance then, and we can just add the simulate touch method, which will not be public, it will be internal, I'm pretty sure that. And here this will be also internal. This is a test class, so it should be internal. Microsoft UI SplitButton controls, and uncomment this. And we have to make these static, and these are using the instance. Now the instance, they are setting the field here, which should be a private Boolean simulate touch false, and we set it here and set it here as well. Yeah, this is just a getter. So this is actually a property. So public static simulate touch, and we have a get and set Boolean. We don't have to have the we have to have it as two methods just to make it simpler. So simulate touch will this getter will return the field, and the setter will set the field to simulate on the instance. Okay, right, so this should be it for this helper class, and if we are lucky, it should be now visible in the toggle split button class. Where was it used? This, yes, here simulate touch. Yeah, it's okay, and the last pointer device type doesn't exist in the current context. Why doesn't it exist? Because we have invalid C# syntax here. So let's make it valid, and we should be now okay. All right. So we have almost everything in this class implemented except for onApply template, and that will be probably the most meaty part. And then we will have to implement the XAML and the XAML styles and the toggle split button functionality as well. Okay, so I will probably now stop here for today, and we will continue on this probably tomorrow or after tomorrow, depending on how my schedule is. But it's getting late here, so I will have to go to bed to make the morning work. So thank you for joining me on this UNO Platform live coding session, and I hope tomorrow or the next session we will finish the split button implementation, and we will see actual results in the test page, and we will see some actual UI coming from this. But as you can see, that the implementation of WinUI controls is pretty simple, and if you want to try it out, you definitely can do that, and you just follow the same pattern of work that I showcased here. So taking the C# C++ code and converting it to C#, and in most cases, pretty much like 90% of cases, it's just simple rewriting of the code and replacing methods with properties and so on. But in some specific exceptions, we have to do some additional work, like for the events, which are done a little bit differently in C# than from the C++ version. So anyways, thank you for joining, and see you next time. Bye bye.